Hi everyone and welcome back to Tennis Time. So the 2021 clay court season is very much on the way. We are preparing for the Mutua Madrid Open, the second clay court Masters 1000 of the year, third overall after Miami and Monte Carlo. Big things going on. We have Dominic Thiem finally back after his foot injury and knee injury. We have Daniil Medvedev also back this week after his COVID diagnosis from about 3 weeks ago, which is definitely good news. He seems to be okay. He's training hard according to his manager, and he seems to be healthy, so we're very happy about that. Maybe a less happy news is that Novak Djokovic is not going to be traveling to Madrid, and he's not going to defend his title since he's the 2019 winner. Nonetheless, I think we have really a lot of good matches to look forward to. The few things I want to talk about today. First of all, let's have a look at the draw. Let's go through quarter by quarter each section. The other thing I want to talk about is maybe a little bit more about the Nadal Tsitsipas Barcelona Final, how I think Nadal is doing ahead of the French Open. And I want to also assess Nadal's chances of winning the French Open, and I'm going to tell you why I think he's still the favorite for the French Open in 2021. Okay, so let's dive in. First section, as I said, since Djokovic is not present, the world number one Nadal, the world number two is seeded first. In his section of the draw, he has Sinner, the up-and-coming Sinner. He has Hurkacz, the Miami champion, and Alexander Zverev. So, things to watch out here in the first round. I think the Khachanov-Nishikori match is going to be a good one. Khachanov did not particularly have a very good 2021 so far, but he has been traveling to a lot of tournaments, and normally he wins his first two rounds. I'm really wondering if Nishikori can get past him this time, because Nishikori himself is sort of on a comeback trail after long layoffs and injuries. He's been playing really well in the last few weeks. 2 weeks ago when he played Nadal in Barcelona in his third round match, that was Nadal's second match at Barcelona. He managed to steal the second set, and he's playing really well against Nadal. So I think if he can produce similar performances, he could beat even Khachanov in that first round. Another big match to watch out for, I think, if Carlos Alcaraz, the new up-and-coming 17 years old Spanish sensation, I think he has good chances to pass Manarino. And if he does, then we're going to have a very interesting second round. Of course, Alcaraz respects Nadal a lot. Nadal is also talking kindly and well about Alcaraz. I'm sure and Alcaraz will be very eager to do well if he plays Nadal. And Nadal definitely is not going to want to lose against a 17-year-old. He wants to show his authority and dominance on especially on clay against any player. Maybe this tournament in Madrid is not Nadal's most favorite one, even though it's on clay, because it's high altitude. The balls fly through the air a little bit differently, so it's not suiting his game or his preferences that much, as history has shown us. He doesn't have that strong of a record here as in Monte Carlo, Barcelona, or even Rome, for that matter. But nonetheless, I think after his match, after his matches in Barcelona, and especially that final against Tsitsipas, I think he's well-deserved number one favorite for this tournament. He might meet Sinner in the third round. That's going to be exciting as well. I'm not really sure that Zverev can move through the second round. Khachanov or Nishikori are probably going to beat him, so I don't see him making it to the quarterfinals, honestly. A little bit like Thiem was talking about the fact that he's not particularly feeling confident lately and he seems to be lacking motivation. That has shown in the recent performances in his Munich hometown tournament. He also lost relatively early. He was playing okay against Ivashka, but then Ivashka turned things around, won the second set and the third as well. So Zverev is not in a particularly good place, it seems, at the moment. So we might have Nadal Nishikori quarterfinals. I think that would be really interesting to watch. If we move on with the draw, so this is Thiem's draw. He's the number 3 seed, and Andrei Rublev is also in this section, so they might meet in the quarterfinals. This is a section of the draw where I'm not particularly excited about too many matches. If I would have to pick one, then I think the Munar against Diminor match would be an exciting one. If we get a Thiem Rublev quarterfinal, that would be fantastic, and that's something definitely to watch out for. I'm really thinking hard about Thiem and his chances, how he's going to do when he's back. I think Thiem was the kind of guy who liked to have matches under his belt and to feel that confidence what winning matches can give a player. It's very rare that players have the ability to come back relatively quickly after long layoffs. What we've seen a few times Nadal do that or Federer do that, but that's not the norm. So if you have long layoffs, long breaks, it doesn't normally suit you too much. On the other hand, it's going to be really interesting to see Thiem, how he reacts after this long break. If he's motivated and if he wants to win, he knows that he has the ability, he has the capability to play well and to beat almost anybody on any day, especially if he plays on clay. He's been in the final here before in 2018. He likes to play here, I think. So it's going to be interesting. And if we will get that Thiem Rublev quarterfinal, then I'm definitely going to watch that one. So third section of the draw, moving on, we have Schwarzman at the top, Tsitsipas at the bottom, and Shapovalov and Felix Auger-Aliassime in the bottom. I think there are a few more matches to look out for here. Umber Karatsev is going to be an interesting one. Humbert has played well this week in his preparation tournament. I think that was in Estoril. And Karatsev, well, he's had a fantastic tournament in Belgrade where he's beaten Djokovic in a 3-hour 25-minute match in the semis. He's lost, unfortunately for him, in the final against Berettini in a final set tiebreak. But nonetheless, I think that's definitely has given him a lot of confidence. He's won Dubai this year. I'm always confusing Dubai with Doha, but I think it's Dubai. He's won this year an ATP 500. So, yeah, Umber Karatsev definitely one to watch. FA against Ruud. So Ruud has had a good week this week, but he's lost in Germany in Munich against Basilashvili in the semis. And FAA, well, he's had a relatively good week, but he's lost to Sinner, I think, last week in Barcelona. It's very hard for me to say who's going to win this one, but I think it's definitely going to be an interesting and exciting match to watch. I think Norrie against Krajinovic is also going to be interesting. Norrie is in the final in Estoril. I think that match is ongoing right now, and Krajinovic was a semi-finalist or quarter-finalist in Munich, lost to Jan-Lennart Struff. So that's definitely one to watch as well. Going on to the second round, Tsitsipas may probably play Basilashvili. Basilashvili has just won the Munich title. He's played really well against Struff in that final, and throughout the whole week he hasn't dropped a set. He's beaten Federer in Doha or Dubai on his comeback. As I'm said, I'm confusing those two places all the time. And he's won that ATP 500 tournament as well. So Basilashvili is going strong. And I think that's going to be a tough second round match for Tsitsipas. Tsitsipas himself, of course, the best player so far on clay this year, being in the final of Barcelona and winning Monte Carlo. So I see him as coming through. Nonetheless, it's going to be a tough match, I think, for him. In the second round, I think Schwartzman might potentially meet Karatsev. That's probably going to be a good match, and I think Karatsev might even topple him. So we might get a Karatsev-Tsitsipas quarterfinal. That would be probably also quite interesting. We've seen these two play in Monte Carlo. It was the second round and Tsitsipas won quite comfortably. But I think this time Karatsev might give him more opposition if they meet. So moving on to the final section, we have at the top Berettini, at the bottom we have Medvedev, and Carreño Busta and Cristian Garin in the middle. First round, Ramos Vinolas against Taylor Fritz, I think is going to be a good one. Ramos Vinolas playing the Estoril final right now, so he's definitely in good form. Garin against Verdasco, well, I think that's going to be also an exciting and interesting match given the matchups. In the second round, we might get Medvedev against Davidovic Fokina. So Davidovic Fokina has also had a good week in Estoril this week. And Medvedev is definitely a guy who is unpredictable, and I think even though he doesn't particularly like to play on clay that much, the Madrid conditions might suit him quite well. It will be also interesting to see how he's playing back after his longer break now, his forced break with COVID. And then also potentially interesting matchup, Berettini against Fornini, the two top Italian players at the moment. And I think Berettini is going to come through that. I'm really having a hard time to pick a potential quarterfinal matchup. I think Berettini is going to make it in the top section of the draw, but I'm really not sure about the bottom half of the draw. Okay, so these have been the first four quarters. If we look at the final, semi-finals and finals at the weekend, I think we have the opportunity to see a Nadal against Rublev match, or maybe Nadal against Thiem, but I think it's rather going to be Nadal Rublev, and that is going to be a repeat of the Monte Carlo quarterfinal where Nadal lost against Rublev. And I think in the semis we might see Berettini and Tsitsipas. I'm more confident about the Tsitsipas pick. We will see. And we might very well have a repeat of the Barcelona final, Nadal against Tsitsipas. It's definitely going to be interesting, I think. And this is a good time, in my opinion, to talk a little bit about that Barcelona final, because I think we're going to have a repeat here. So the Barcelona final is interesting because Nadal's appearance in Monte Carlo was not particularly convincing, even though he won his first two matches easily. Then he lost against Rublev. Against Rublev, he wasn't playing well. There were a few things really bothering me when watching Nadal playing that match. I've talked about that before in my previous videos. But to sum it up, the serve wasn't working and he was just missing so much. And Rublev really insisted to play on Nadal's backhand. Nadal was missing with his backhand more than he normally does. And he wasn't really convincing with his forehand either. And Rublev really took advantage of the fact that he's taken Nadal out wide on the courts, and he made him play with his backhand, and when he attacked with the forehand, Nadal was nowhere to be seen on the court. So that's the way Rublev was basically dominating Nadal. The week after in Barcelona for Nadal, it was tough. So he was playing Ilya Ivashka. Ivashka is a guy ranked outside of the top 100, and you would have definitely expected Nadal to beat him relatively straight. Straight. It should have been a straightforward match for him. But that's not what happened. He lost the first set with 2 breaks, and he did not break Ivashka's serve at all. If you've never seen Ivashka play, then you have to imagine that Ivashka is sort of Robin Söderling 2.0. I don't think he's as good as Robin Söderling, but the way he plays, the way he's built, is relatively similar to Söderling. Tall player, big serve, has a reasonably big forehand. It's not as big as Söderling's was, and has a very similar backhand to Söderling. And the way he moves around the court, given the fact that he's a big guy, that reminds me also a little bit of Söderling. So Nadal came back in the second. It was still a tough third set. He had to grind it out, and he did. In the second match he's played in the third round against Nishikori, I've talked about that. He lost the second set after winning the first 6 love. And then somehow he outgrind Nishikori there again. After that, in the quarters, he played Cameron Norrie. He's beaten him 1-4, but that was still not particularly convincing, especially in the second set. And then he's played Pablo Carreño Busta. He's beaten him 2-3 in the semis. That was more convincing. And when he's got to the final and he's had to play Tsitsipas was a guy who just the week before has won Monte Carlo, first time Masters 1000 champion. And he really seemed to be playing so well on clay. And I felt like, okay, this is going to be really tough for Nadal to win. I still thought Nadal was the favorite, but I did not really expect the match to unfold the way it did. Because in the first set, Nadal won the first set, but Tsitsipas was 4-2 up in that first set. And I think that was definitely Tsitsipas' set to win. And he's lost the next 4 games after that. What Tsitsipas has done extremely well, I think, and I've not seen anybody else talk about this. I'm not saying nobody did, I just haven't seen or read about this in any place. Tsitsipas was making sure to keep on his forehand, on his backhand, a very decent height. And by that tactic, keeping that decent height when hitting the ball over the net, he made sure he was hitting deep balls, so high, deep balls. And that was a tactic which helped him to keep Nadal further back in the court, even more than Nadal likes. So Nadal doesn't particularly like and enjoy to be in rallies on a permanent basis really far behind the baseline, especially in a position where you cannot dominate. So they were training high balls deep in the court, and it was very difficult for Nadal to get out of those and to be explosive with his forehand and dominate Tsitsipas, dominate his opponent. It felt like Tsitsipas needed to be incredibly precise, and he had to use his backhand really well. So he took a few steps back behind the baseline, also when hitting his backhand, either going down the line or going cross court. He was keeping that height. And this is something I realized when watching that backhand of Tsitsipas's. So everybody knows, and if you talk to anybody who's been watching tennis for the last decade, knows that if Nadal plays somebody who has a single-handed backhand and it's a right-handed player, then that person is normally in trouble, because it's so difficult for the one-hander, if the ball spins up so high, if Nadal hits his cross-court forehand, to take that ball on the rise. So it's almost impossible. But the fact that Tsitsipas seemed to be so comfortable stepping back and using that topspin of Nadal's, in the sense that the ball traveled all the way back far behind the baseline where Tsitsipas was. Tsitsipas wasn't hitting too hard with his backhand, but he was hitting the ball so long, and the single-handed backhand has a peculiar advantage over the double-handed backhand in that regard. So if you're strong enough, like Tsitsipas is, to stay far behind, or relatively far behind the baseline, and take the ball in the right moment, you're just able and capable to hold Nadal back from attacking you with his forehand. So I think that tactic really worked well for Tsitsipas. What I noticed after 7th, 8th game in the first set, Tsitsipas maybe got a little bit tight or tired with executing this tactic to perfection, and Nadal got a little bit more into the match. On the other hand, as Tsitsipas was ahead for so long in the first set and then losing it, we had a little bit of a similar situation in the second set, because Nadal was the one who was ahead. He's got broken back. Then in the tiebreak, he was the one who had the first match points in that tiebreak. And even before the tiebreak, he was having match points on Tsitsipas' serve. So when Tsitsipas was serving, I think 5-6 down, Nadal had match points. Then in the tiebreak he didn't have match points. So he was ahead in the tiebreak, but then Tsitsipas recovered and has taken the tiebreak 8-6. Yeah. In the final set, that was super tight. It could have gone either way. Tsitsipas had match points in the final set after not converting, and Nadal being a little bit lucky with a net cord. Then he reeled off the last 3 games and took the third set 7-5. So my point is, if Nadal continues to grind and win matches here in Madrid, and he's going to feel more comfortable, then I think he will be able to counter this Tsitsipas attack, the Tsitsipas kind of way of playing. But having said that, I'm still not 100% sure that this is how it's going to unfold. Because I was super impressed with Tsitsipas in Monte Carlo, in Barcelona, and I think if he can keep this energy level up, if he can keep the confidence up, he seems to have been able to build up lately, then I think he can be a real threat, not just here in Rome and then at the French Open. If Thiem comes back and he plays the quarterfinals and he is going to lose a tight match against Rublev, and then he plays Rome and is going to go deep beyond quarters, I think Thiem might be able to be the second favorite for the French Open. But if he doesn't, and if Tsitsipas continues to play so well and he's going to reach the final here and maybe something similar in Rome, I think he's going to be the next biggest threat after Nadal at the French. I think that's a bold statement to make, but I'm pretty sure if he keeps this up, then he's definitely going to be the number 2 favorite for the French Open. And before finishing up the video, one final thought. There has not been too much of Nadal, Federer, Djokovic in the tennis scene throughout this year up until to this point. Djokovic has won the Australian Open, but after that he's played only in Serbia, where he lost in the semis against Karatsev, which was a great match to watch. Nadal has played a little bit more because he's won Barcelona and he's played in Monte Carlo, but other than that, after the Australian Open he didn't do anything either. And I've been watching for the first time tennis without Nadal, Federer, Djokovic since 2004 or 5. And I was contemplating how tennis will be without these big three players, because we were so much used to them, and every time they come to the scene they're so loved and adored, and people are saying that there might be a big gap after they leave. Okay, there will be some sort of a gap, but given what I've seen so far in the last few months, I'm not particularly worried. If you're still going to have guys like Tsitsipas, like the very new up-and-comers, Sinner, Alcaraz, Musetti, I think then tennis is in good hands. And Tsitsipas was also talking about this, that he doesn't think that one or the other player are going to be so super dominant like the big three were, and they're gonna be a big six or a big eight who are going to win among each other most of the tournaments. I'm not particularly convinced of that. But even if that's going to be the case, I think for people who like tennis and who enjoy good competition and good contests, we're still going to have them. Because if you really like tennis just the way I do, and I've been deprived of the Federer Nadal Djokovic show in the last few months, I still think I watched more tennis than last year. Or maybe last year is not the best example, but as I did in 2018 or 19 or 17 even. And I feel tennis is in good hands. So I really hope in the upcoming weeks and months is going to be more and more crowd coming back into stadiums, cheering players on. And I also think if we're not going to have the big three domination in tennis, then the 250s and 500 tournaments are also going to get more attention. Because the big players, the bigger players than Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, even Murray, predominantly have chosen, after they really have gotten big, they've chosen to participate in the big events. So that was basically the Masters 1000s, the Grand Slams, and the World Tour Finals, and here or there, with a few exceptions, a few other tournaments. But if the big three are gone, then this is, I feel it's not definitely going to be the case for the upcoming few years. So quality players are going to be spread out more, play even 250 events. When the 250, 500 and 1000 rule or definition was introduced in 2009, I had the impression, this is a good idea. This was a good initiative because it simplifies for anybody to understand the categories of these tournaments. The 250 is a low level, 500 is a mid-level, and the Masters 1000 is the highest level tournament, ATP tournament you're gonna get, and then the Grand Slam is the king. And even today, when I look at some statistics, they're telling us how many 250s Federer has won, and the number of 250s he's won is a lot higher than the ones Nadal's won or Djokovic has won. Of course it is, because when Federer was winning and playing those tournaments, the 250 category of definition didn't exist. So it wasn't like Federer was going to play a 250 and wow, what an event or what a big deal, because the categorization of 250 did not exist up until 2009. I think one upside of the big three being gone and the players being spread out more to various tournaments is going to keep tennis permanently interesting, because you're going to have Alcaraz for the next 4 or 5 years play 250 events, hopefully, maybe. I think that the chance for that is a lot higher than Djokovic playing regularly 250s. He's going to play Belgrade because that's his home tournament in his hometown, but he's not going to go around and play 250s because he has reached a certain age. He wants to achieve certain things and records. The same goes for Nadal, and even more so for Federer. Okay, these have been my thoughts of the draw, Nadal's chances for the French Open, and tennis future prospects. So please leave your comments below. I'm really curious about your opinion. Don't forget to hit this thumbs up if you found something useful or interesting in this video, and most importantly, if you haven't done already, please subscribe to the channel in order not to miss out on any future content. Thank you very much for watching and enjoy the tennis.